gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Cause baby, I feel real good and I wish I would. It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Everybody watch out. Watch out now. I'm ready for a good time, and I came to groove. The whole band's here, and we came to move. Got a fresh haircut and 2 new shoes. We're here all night like we got nothing to lose. Coming out the jacket, cause we're turning up the heat. I wanna see you clapping when you get up out your seat. It's time to make it happen when we hit these streets. I'm coming in hot, and I can't be beat. Watch out now.
Hello, world. Welcome to another Chuck Levin's Live, episode 20, major monumental moment. I'm Adam Levin, and I got the famous, world-famous Paul Schein with me today. Hello, Paul. How's it going? As usual, we are open. Everyone thinks closing, so bear with me as we deal with a little bit of the craziness, but we got a crazy episode today. We're talking to the guys from PRS Guitars, which is like super family to us. I'm super excited to do this episode. It's going to be a great one. Before we
go on that clamp, we can't find it, man.
It's crazy.
All right,
Craziness. It's live. So before we get into the PRS stuff, we have a little announcement I just wanted to make. We talked a lot about things that are happening during the pandemic we find ourselves in, and central to that in our world are venues. Like I've heard some of my friends in venues say they were the first to close and they will likely be the last to open. And you might not appreciate it immediately, but if you really think about it, venues are central to the entire music community. Those behind the scenes engineers and riggers and lighting designers and food staff. I mean, just like to think about the economy that exists behind a venue, and not to forget the musicians that play at these venues, small and large, local venues, big venues, no matter what it is, there's a massive community that exists around us that plays through venues. And so we got to do our part to try and support them and save them and help them. And so in DC, there is a big movement to try and push through legislation to help venues specifically because they are so central to the bigger economy of music. So guys, if we could share that screen that I have real quick, we're going to drop this link in the comments. I encourage you to check it out, read up on it, help out where you can. It would mean a lot to so many of the musicians around us, musicians that are our friends, that are our customers, that are part of this community. That make everybody's lives brighter and more happy with the power of music. So we really do appreciate you just taking a look, think about it. And if there's something in your city, wherever you are, venues in your city that you can support, I'm sure they would appreciate it too. So check it out. It's all there. Lots of information. Venues. It's all part of it. So we got PRS with us today, which if some of you don't know, PRS Guitars runs deep with Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center. Back in the day, Paul Reed Smith worked in our guitar shop when he was just I'll let Paul speak a little bit more about it. But back when he was 18, he was working in our guitar shop, fixing guitars as he was kind of coming up with his genius ideas that ended up being PRS Guitars as we know today, like you can see behind Paul, behind you. So flash forward all these years, and it's still like family. They are just a stone's throw away from us up in Stevensville. And it's always a treat to have the guys come down, or we go up to the factory, pick out woods, and just, it really means a lot to have a relationship like that. And to watch someone grow to become one of the greats in the world of guitars. And it's really special to have some of the folks from the factory direct with us today. So I think without further ado, let's just bring the guys on. Guys, we have Jim Cullen and Jack Higginbotham from the PRS factory. Jimmy Jack.
Jimmy Jack!
How's it going, guys?
Fantastic.
All good.
How are you?
Look at that. Look at that.
Look at us.
Doing great. So, guys, what do we got in store today? Where are we going with this? What do we got? What's happening?
We're going to go wherever you guys want to go. But we can talk about, I think a lot of what we want to talk about is our SE line. We We can talk about S2, core, private stock, whatever you guys have. Jim and I have a bit of history between us with PRS and obviously with Washington Music Center as well. So we're just here to field questions and take it wherever you guys want to go.
Awesome. So before we get too deep into it, we do have one of the most massive giveaways we've ever done on Chuck Levin's Live. Guys, throw it up on the screen. Show the people what we're giving away. What do we got? Throw it up. You still got time to enter. We're giving away a PRS SE T50 TE50 acoustic guitar. It's beautiful. It is ridiculous. It plays amazing. It's stunning what this thing plays like. Guys, there's still time to enter. We're going to cut it off about halfway through this stream. So if you are interested in entering to win this super awesome guitar right there, click on the link that's in our comments and enter to win. There's a couple different ways that you can do it. So submit as many ways as you can, enter in, and we will announce that winner later in the stream. Who you are, who are we talking to?
All right, I'm Jim Cullen, and I've been here for 23 years. I started here in 1997, sanding guitars in the finish hall, and then I hopped around all kinds of areas in the production, stained, prepped, all kinds of stuff, and then maybe right around 1999 or 2000, I took a job in customer service, and I did that for way too long, like 6 years. And I was the customer service department, and then I volunteered for tons and tons of things and learned all kinds of stuff about PRS. I think when I started, there was like maybe 60 people here or 65 people. I can't remember. But now there's 347. That's a little bit of something. And then in 2004 or 5, I took a job in sales as the grunt dude and hopped around doing stuff, learning more stuff about PRS, then getting into product development, getting into all kinds of other stuff, key accounts, and then finally national sales manager, and then what I do today, which is director of sales.
Awesome. That's like the true arc. You've done it all.
It's the arc, yeah.
That's the full arc.
Jack's story is more impressive than mine.
Well, I'm prepared to be blown away. Let's hear it.
All right. So my deal is it's 1985. I meet this guy named Paul Smith. He's on West Street making guitars. I'm in a band that's going nowhere fast, and I think I need to have a little change of pace. So I begged him and pleaded, and he gave me a gig. And I started building guitars when the company started, maybe 3-4 months after it fired up. I came in entry level, just like Jim, sanding guitar bodies, picking out wood. I actually had dropped out of college and was going to be a mechanical engineer. And my plan was get out of the band and go back to college and get my degree. What happened was I got obsessed with guitars, the art of building guitars, the physics of guitars, the mechanical engineering of guitars. And 1985 turned into 2020, almost 2021. And it's been a fantastic career of building guitars, selling guitars. Met Paul Schein in 1990, I think, and sold him guitars with Washington Music Center. Was president of the company for a while, and for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been focusing on building the PRS SE series. So I've done a little bit of everything, and I've enjoyed all of it, or almost all of it, except for purchasing, which is the one thing I didn't enjoy. But it's been a fantastic life, and love being in the industry, love being a part of music, love making tools for people to use every day in their music making.
That is awesome. And that's such a PRS answer. Like when you say like the engineering and the physics of the guitars, like I immediately think of Paul. And like if you've ever had a chance to interact with Paul, if you've been to one of our PRS days that we've had here over the years, I mean, the man is a wizard of guitar craftsmanship and artistry, but also the science and the math that goes into guitars. I'm a big math nerd, so like I super appreciate just the depth that he goes into in what it means for a guitar to sound good. And it's not just, there's an art aspect to it, and there's also a math aspect to it, which is like super cool. So really cool to have you both on. Everyone that's watching, load up some questions. We got 2 of like the biggest brains in PRS guitars with us today. Nothing's off limits. Feel free to ask whatever you want. We will get to as many of these things as we can. Paul Schein, Why don't you give the people a little taste of your history with PRS? Because I think between the three of you, there ain't anything that we can't answer when it comes to PRS guitars. So, Paul, tell us a little bit of your history with PRS guitars.
Well, a lot of you have heard me talk about my history with PRS. I was the person that put them in this store, and I've said before that a monkey could have made the call. I just happened to be the monkey that made the call. The quality of the instrument was so obvious at the time, and still is. And that's a point I want to make about the SEs, which is the thrust of what we're talking about here today, is Paul knew that other guitar companies, I won't use them by name, but we know who they are, had sub-brands that come in at a lower price point. And Paul was so famous for the quality of his instruments and his, if you'll pardon the expression, anal approach to everything about the instruments, that he knew that if he was going to build one offshore and hit a lower price point, it had to be right or he was toast, because everyone was gunning for him to fail on this, because, you know, it happens sometimes, but not with this guy. So that was the first thing we noticed about it, is when the first Santana SEs came in, he dragged his feet for a long time, didn't want to do it, and he finally found a shop that could do it in Korea. I think it was United was the company that he used over there. And the quality had to be there for him to have his name on it, and indeed it was. And it started out simple with just the Santana SE, and then the line branched out with success, and we were behind it, and anybody with a brain selling PRS would be behind it. Because let's face it, the only defect in a PRS guitar is the price. Sorry, guys, I had to say that. So when people came in looking for PRS guitars, not everybody can go there, and we appreciate that. So he finally went there with the SEs, and it's just been bigger and upward and onward ever since. And you know, now they started putting the birds on them, and I know he was worried about making the guitars too close to the real core guitars and, you know, maybe diluting the bloodline, but there's still people that are always going to want, quote, the real deal. And then there's other people that come in and say, well, you know what, this Camaro is almost as fast as the Vet, I'm good to go. So, you know, it works for, you know, it's really up to us as salespeople to find the right tool for the right job for these people. And well, that's just how we do it here. So they've never let us down, so we never let the customer down, and it's a perfect system.
So,
there it
Paul,
is.
you just said something that we talk about all the time, and that is a tool for the job. And musicians are workers. We all were musicians. We were working musicians before PRS came into our lives. And what we do is think of it as building tools for a job. And there's a different right tool for all kinds of applications. And a lot of what we've been doing over the past 10 years is trying to find every musician that's out there the best tool for that person, and that's a mission for us.
Yeah, PRS is, they have a reputation lately as being these stunningly beautiful guitars that someday someone will find out are actually good instruments. Back when they first came out, we sold them as really stunningly good instruments that, oh, by the way, happen to be beautiful. So it's a different world now, but people still, when they pick them up and play them, realize that somebody cared an awful lot about everything that goes into these. It's, you know, it's easy to just see them as these pretty little lollipops behind me. They're all different colors and, you know, they're great. But if you talk to Paul at any length about the things he cares about, you know, just dropping little nut blanks onto pieces of wood to hear how they sound for hours at a time to find the right, I mean, he's just anal about everything. And that's why, you know, there's no such thing as caring too much about something. You know, I think OCD is the way to go with everything, but there it is.
And you know, you mentioned the birds on the SEs, and I think we actually had a question from the audience already about them. So, guys, what's the story with the birds?
Well, yeah, so when Paul was making guitars back in the West Street shop, he was looking for an inlay, and he was like, well, what kind of inlay should I put on the guitar? He tried like these little banjo-looking inlays, moons, dots, whatever, and then he was like, well, let me find an inlay that I guess is recognizable maybe, but it turned out his mom is a bird watcher, and that just struck a chord with him, and he had a cool little book, and there you go. It's a field, yeah, it was a bird.
It was the Audubon field guy.
Audubon field guy.
Which
I
is
have
still
that
out.
book. I have it.
Yeah.
So my son is a birder, and it was like, I'm like, oh, there it is. It's like, but it's cool because it is totally recognizable. It's beautiful. It is universal. You know?
Okay, yeah, circles are
And
universal
still,
shapes.
like
right?
people that don't necessarily know our brand, when they see a show or they see a video, they're always, oh, I know it's a PRS. It has the birds on it. So it's very, very cool, very brilliant.
So I think I love that because it's his name on the headstock. It's like his heart and soul on the on the neck. Like it just breeds more into like the family aspect that this still really is. I mean, Paul's around. Like this is not just like a name. Like Paul is in it, and every bit of these guitars screams Paul Reed Smith, which I think is too cool. And now the birds are like super sought after, and there's different variations of the birds, and now they're like a token of a badge of honor on the guitars, which is super cool.
Even.
Yeah,
which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah. So let's talk about the SE line. That's what we're here to talk about, and why an SE is a phenomenal instrument and a tool. So, and actually, you have that one behind you. That blue one just blew me away. I saw it in our shop today, just like ridiculous. The 35th.
Here
was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that one.
Look at that thing. Holy cow.
I have one too.
So take us through just like, where did SE start? What's it represent to you guys? What's the story and where we are today?
So you guys teed it up nicely. So basically, when we started out, it was the Santana Se. And Carlos, how it really started with Carlos had recorded the Supernatural record. He was on fire. Phenomenal things were happening. And the signature guitar that we had been building for years for Carlos was not an inexpensive proposition. And he came to Paul and he said, what I want is my fans, my current fan base, to be able to play something with my name on it that is quality, that is, that is inspirational, that can take what I love and put it into their world. And it was a challenge, basically. And what came of that was, let's try to find a way to do a guitar manufactured outside of the United States that's done in a different way, where the target isn't necessarily the price or the embellishments. It's about making a great instrument that PRS is proud of and that we would play ourselves instead of just brand slapping, and doing a thing like that. So that early guitar didn't even say PRS on it. It said SE Santana, and it was very distanced. And it was over time that we, over the past 20 years, this thing has been going on, that we have gotten it closer and closer and more comfortable with it, and seeing as a guitar like this is very technologically innovative. It's our 35th anniversary, custom 24. The switching on it is similar to the Paul's guitar. It's gorgeous. It has a carved top, not a beveled top. The things that go inside of this guitar 10 years ago, we would have said, that's not going to happen because it's too close to home. But a rising tide floats all ships in a way. And so what we found is we continue to increase the quality of the guitars we're making here in Maryland. That gives us the ability to increase the quality and add the DNA and add the innovation that we're making inside of guitars that we make outside of this company. And in the end, the guitar player wins because you end up with an instrument that it may be at, if $499 is an entry-level price to you, we have a guitar at $499 that is an inspirational, professional instrument that you can take out to a gig and play. And that's our goal, is to make those tools, going back to that.
It's amazing. They're amazing instruments, and they really have become like a staple in the world of guitars at this point. I mean, they hold their own for sure. And like that acoustic that we're giving away today, which plug for the giveaway, we got a little more time on this thing. So guys, if you haven't already entered, look at that thing. It is absolutely beautiful, and it plays like a guitar twice its price. It is really an incredible piece of gear, an incredible instrument. So do not sleep on this. Enter to win. We got 9 minutes left to enter, and we will announce the winner at the end of the stream. So stay tuned for that. So let's get back in it. Let's talk about, I guess, the 2020 lineup of SEs. I guess that's kind of where we should kind of hone in on. Where do you guys want to go with next?
So here's what I'll do. I'm going to be the Vanna White of the room, and I'm going to feed Jim guitars, and he can talk about them eloquently and beautifully. because he is eloquent and beautiful.
But before I get into that, you were talking about the family and the history. I just wanted to tell a quick story because it relates to Paul Schein and Washington music. So when I was 12 years old, I asked my dad for a bass for Christmas. And my dad was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I thought he didn't listen to me. And then on Christmas, I got a bass, and it was a Fender Squire Katana, which I think they only made for 2 years, 85 and 86. But he purchased that fine bad boy, which got me into playing bass at Washington Music from Paul Schein. So and then I saved up for a bass amp. I had a paper route, and I bought that TNT maybe 50 or something, 150. I can't remember.
150.
A 150
TNT was 150. Yeah.
From Mr. Paul Schein. So that's history runs deep for sure.
That is awesome.
Pretty funny. Small world. Okay, this is an SE standard. This is the guitar Jack was talking about. That's $499, fully bound, all mahogany, bevel top, but very hallmark trademark PRS with the birds and the body shape and neck shape. It's a wide thin neck, PRS trim, volume, tone, and a 3-way selector. But a lot of bang for the buck there. You could order this right from Washington Music, pick it up, or have it shipped to you. Take it right to a gig when that starts up again. So sign up for the deal that Adam was talking about.
Yeah, that's one thing. One thing that you just said, you could get that guitar out of the box, pick it up, and play it, and that's something I think that goes not there's the artistry of it, and there's also the technical aspect of how you guys actually produce guitars and you QC guitars. You guys don't let a guitar out of the factory that doesn't belong out of the factory. I mean, look at them both shake their heads like that. Like that really it says something. Like it's like we have to check out on some guitars, and there's some makers that you got to make sure that it is what it's supposed to be. Never with a PRS, and the consistency is unparalleled. I mean, every PRS plays like a PRS.
I need to say this here, and this is true. We have never, and I mean ever, had a bad neck on a PRS guitar, and that's just wacky. I'm sorry, that's just nuts.
That's the real deal.
I can explain stranger things, but I can't explain that.
I have a funny story about that too. So when I was working customer service, we had a customer that his guitar went through a fire. And it was hosed off by the fire department and all kinds of other stuff. And the guitar came back here for some TLC. And we actually offered to buy the guitar from the customer for our archives. But here's what I can tell you. The neck was dead straight still after all.
That's right. That's right.
I was like, I can't explain that one.
We had a guy trade one in once, and we don't get a lot of them traded in. And someone had loosened the truss rod nut to where it was finger tight. It was just about to fall off. So the neck was pretty bowed up. It had no tension on it, and had been sitting for years like that. And as far as how cured that wood is and how occlusive that glue that he uses to glue the fingerboard to the neck, and I got a little story I could tell you about that back from '85. But when we tightened that truss rod, it took all of a half a turn, and that neck was dead straight like the day it was built. That's just, again, that's nuts. So
we could take about the next 2 hours to talk about that, which would be a lot of fun, but probably not productive. But
right.
That'll be another stream.
Yeah, well, let's do that next week. Next month, whatever. But
it just goes back to the OCD thing.
It's all OCD is where it's at. You're right, Paul. I'm totally with you. That's where it's at. But at some point, maybe we can do a thing to talk about, and you can see this on YouTube if you go to our channel. There's a video of a factory tour of us making guitars in Indonesia. And a lot of what Paul's talking about, the stuff that we sweat inside of here for 30 years or 35 years now, is stuff that we apply to this project because we are guitar builders. And therefore, if we know how to do something better, we want to apply it to everything. So we apply it to these guitars as well. So I spend a lot of time working with factories inside of Asia. That's a lot of what my night times are spent doing these days. And it's about taking our processes, our knowledge of materials, the components, and melding it into an instrument that can be affordable and something that more people can enjoy and learn from, but still have that DNA of a PRS. And that's our baseline, is it's got to have the PRS DNA.
Yeah, we describe them as boringly consistent. When people ask us about PRSs, I just tell them, I said, if there was ever a guitar you could slap a label on and ship somewhere far away, not that we would ship out of the international borders, it would be a PRS.
the fun of the hunt isn't something that's so much fun with us. It's the
No.
hunt is pretty short.
It's like a,
The consistency's been very good for all of us through this whole event that we're experiencing, right? This bizarre period of history.
yeah, it's like a dock. It's like a dock full of Toyota Camrys, different serial numbers. They all start.
Every time, and they all feel good.
So what,
So,
what
all right,
do you got there?
This is a S.E. Paul's guitar. So this was the first S.E. with the carved top, which I don't know if you can see. It's got the violin carve,
Mm-hmm.
like a core or a CE. So first one like that in the line. It's got the Paul's electronics. Sorry, it's backwards. Volume and tone, 3-way, and the 2 mini toggles, which are coil taps, coil splits. Real shell birds. Not sort of synthetic material.
Real deal.
Paul likes grommet style tuners, so they don't clamp the headstock. So that's what this is all about on here. The fun black buttons. And yeah.
And the bridge on this is actually the same bridge that we use inside a core and private stock on Paul's guitars. So it's got the brass inserts.
Yeah, aluminum with brass inserts and unplated studs.
So this guitar to me kind of represents where our heads are when we're working inside of this series right now. We're raising the bar. We're basically less shy about taking what we've learned inside of this factory and applying it to guitars that we can share with more people. So
And I want
to pushing the boundary.
I want to bring up a point here. You just glossed by that and said, and unpainted studs. And believe me, it's not because of the look. It's because of the acoustic coupling between the bridge and the stud. And that's that OCD thing. There it is again.
It makes a huge difference. And I'll tell you, it's actually more of a nightmare for us because the stuff, tarnishes and all kinds of other stuff. But it sounds better. And once you know that, you can't walk away from that.
Yep.
You can't say, I wish we would have. And that's not what we do.
That's right.
Before we go too much further, we only got like 1 more minute on this giveaway. So, guys, if 86 seconds. So, if you want to enter to win this PRS SE Tonare T50E Acoustic Guitar, you got to do it right now.
Hit your bid sniper to 0 and hit it.
This thing is ridiculous. I was picking one up today. It's stunning how good this thing sounds. It's ridiculous. It's like everything we're saying. This is a meticulously made instrument. It is beautiful. It plays amazing. It sounds great. Don't sleep on this. Lots of ways to enter. Biggest giveaway we've ever done on Chuck Levin's Live, episode 20. Do it. Enter. 47 seconds. Clock is ticking.
Don't sleep on it. Sleep with it.
There you go. There it is. All right. What else we got? What else you got cooking behind you?
Well, this is a new model for 2020. It's a SE Mira. So this guitar has a fun story. It started in 2007 as a core guitar, and then kind of hung out there for a little while. And then in 2013, we discontinued it, probably around 2011 or so, 10 or 11, I can't remember. Anyway, in 2012, we started working on the S2 line, and this was part of the initial S2 lineup. And then it lived in S2 for quite a few years. And then we discontinued it there and then brought it into the SE line. And same sort of vibe and aesthetic, neck shape, feel, vibe. But it's now $699 with a gig bag. So that's a good value. It's a lot of value.
Where are you on your count, Adam?
You want to do that one?
Do what now?
2 seconds, 1 second. How many seconds?
1 second. It's over. It's time. It's over. It's over. It's over. The submissions are in. We'll get that winner later off. Let's keep talking guitars, guys. We got 11,000 entries. That is nuts. That's crazy.
Way to go,
whoever won, good luck to you. Good luck to all of you. We got our guys behind the scenes making sure that they're randomly generating the winner. We're using a really cool app to do it. So it is totally random, totally awesome. Stand by for the winner. We'll get to it later. Let's keep talking guitars. Let's keep it going.
All right. So we're talking about the Paul's guitar, and we're talking about innovation and creativity. One of the pinnacles of what we've done, or it's a guitar I love anyway, is our hollow body Piezo that we started in the late 90s here. Fantastic instrument. I have one that is just magical. It was made in '99, I think, and it has been on a few records. It's a great instrument, but it isn't the cheapest thing in the world. So a couple of years ago, started thinking about of the things that we make that we'd like to share with more people, what would it be? And the hollow body definitely came to mind. So this has been a very, very cool project to me, not only to do a hollow body, but to figure out a hollow body piezo. Working with Lloyd Baggs and LR Baggs, flew out to California, did a bunch of brainstorming with Lloyd, who is a bona fide genius, who is a fantastic guy to work with, to come up with a way to make a system that is everything sonically that we have inside of the US version, but in a simplified package that allows us to present it to people as an SE. And so this guitar, if you've ever played one of our hollow bodies, or you should watch our videos, dual outputs, you can go line out on piezo, you can go to your pedal board on electronics, you can go blend. It has discrete volume to go piezo and volume if you want to play it that way. But the guitar has very, very, very authentic acoustic sounds. So authentic, I was playing a charity gig one time with a guy that was playing a brand that I will not name, but one that you would say, well, that's a very good acoustic guitar. And I was playing a hollow body piezo on the piezo setting. The sound man, who's a very good sound man, was getting confused because he wanted to bring me up in the mix, but he kept bringing me down because he thought the hollow body was the acoustic and the acoustic was the hollow body. So it's very, very convincing sounds in a very attractive package. So once the world starts gigging again and you're a gigging musician, this is an incredible tool for you, because one guitar does a whole bunch of stuff, very playable, stylistically attractive in our minds. So yeah, this is like my recent love. This is a guitar that I'm pretty obsessed with right now.
And that's an incredible. I mean, to get the hollow body in an SE is ridiculous. This is brand new for 2020, right? These just came out. And I've always been in love with PRS hollow bodies. I think they are some of the most beautiful, like stunningly awesome guitars out there. So to have one that is every bit a PRS hollow body in an SE line is crazy.
And
I have something to say about this, and it's interesting that in selling guitars, PRS guitars or any guitars, you'd be surprised as musical instruments how few times people play a guitar and buy it based on its sound. They actually are predisposed to like its feel, or their hero plays one, or my teacher told me to buy this, and as long as the guitar doesn't offend them in some way, they're good to go with it, and they learn to like its sound. Because, you know, back in the day, you played a guitar, you got paid, you were done, you didn't much care about anything. It was a different era back then. But the one thing I would say about these guitars is if you didn't know who made it or what it was, and you just sat down to play it, one thing you'll notice is this pleasantly medium plump round neck shape that fits, I think, about any hand there is. And it's just pleasant. There's nothing weird about the shape. It just falls right in your hand and you're happy to have it. And the other thing is the sound of the pickups, the actual sound of the guitar is pleasant. It's something that it sounds, I don't want to say expensive, but I guess that's the best word I could use to describe it. There's a lot, you know, we sell lots of great guitars here, but this guitar, for whatever they charge for it, when you sit down to play it, it's very easy to like it. We sold the first 4 piezo ones in 8 hours after we got them. And that was, I mean, sure, there's always this onset of people excited about the newest thing, but even by our standards, 4 guitars in 8 hours, that was kind of crazy. And that's just the piezo one, but all of them have been popular since they came out. So this guitar impressed the heck out of me. And if anybody was looking for a good semi-hollow type guitar, they'd be insane to overlook this guitar. That's how impressive it is. You know, sonically, everything about it. I like it a lot.
So 2 things real fast. We do an employee record for the employees. You know, we get together and make songs and we put a CD together or whatever as employees. And I was recording with my daughter at the beach, and I had an acoustic guitar and a decent microphone. I ended up using the hollow body piezo for the acoustic sounds, just A-Bing it. It's really an amazing instrument. So it's definitely worth going to Chuck Levin's and checking out. The other thing I want to say real fast is Paul's brought up a couple of times necks and how important that neck is. And something happened about 4 hours ago here that I think plays into that. where we're checking for, we do quality spot checks a lot. So we just randomly pull guitars out of inventory.
Gee, you think so?
Yeah, well, we just do that. So we pulled 4 guitars out, and we pulled this one guitar. It was a Paul's guitar, and the neck shape on it. And I was making necks in 1985 and 1986, so I'm probably pretty partial to what a neck shape ought to be, in my opinion, what a PRS neck shape is. But I was like, man, this thing's amazing. It feels so good. And it was an SE Paul's guitar. And one of the guys looked at me and it said, but from a customer service standpoint, is that a thing? Does anybody say, this neck is good or bad, or I'm going to return a guitar because of the neck of that? And I was like, nah, I never really heard anybody say that in my life, but it doesn't really matter, because the mark of a really excellent guitar, or one of the primary marks, is you put your hand around that thing, and is it comfortable? Is it inspirational? Does it make you want to play? Or is it like just a burden on you? And it's funny you should bring that up, because nobody really ever like returns anything or complains about it. But when I pick up a guitar and Jim picks up a guitar, that's the first thing we do, is to measure that guitar by the shape of the neck.
And you guys have had, I guess we got to talk more next, because like we just keep going back to it. Like the type, you guys have like cult followings for the different types of necks that you guys make. The pattern thin, the pattern wide. There's all these different types of necks. So I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think someone's even asking about different types of necks. And like, are we going to get the same neck on an SE as we're going to find on a Core? Like the same shape, the same style, or are they different as you go into a Core model?
All right, so the answer is it's going to be close, right? So yeah, we have on Core and anything made in the US, we have pattern thin, pattern regular, we have pattern vintage, and that stems from the old terminology, which was wide thin, wide fat, and regular. But our whole goal here is vertical integration, right? So you buy an SE at whatever age you are, it doesn't matter. And at some point you fall in love with that neck, right? Because I can tell you every time I walk into a guitar store, I'm looking, oh, that's a cool looking bass or a cool looking guitar. The first thing I do is I put my hand around the neck like this. And then if it feels good, then I pick it up and I want to plug it in. Usually it's because it looks good first, and then then you're like, oh, I got to check that out. But anyway, the answer is they're pretty close. I think we have more time to spend on the necks here, than you would for a guitar. You might find it, I don't know, $4.99 or $8.99. So we put a lot of time and energy into the neck shape. But the whole thing with vertical integration, you can get a custom at $750 or whatever it is. You can then get a S2 custom at $1349 or whatever they are now, and then a Core custom at $4,600 or whatever, right? So, and then the whole journey, you're used to that neck shape all the way up, right? And that same model. And each time you buy it, the next one, it's just refined and refined and refined. And the whole thing that brought you to it was that PRS, that Core guitar. Usually, that's what did it for me. I'd see him when I was a youngster at Master Musicians or Chuck Levin's or wherever, and I'd go, man, that's just a beautiful instrument. And then I'd feel the neck and just go, feels vintage. It feels old. Something about it. Feels like home.
Feels like home. That's awesome. Love it. So what do you got there? You got another one of the new ones right in your hands. Yeah, brand new.
Brand spanking new from May. May is when we released this. Yeah. So Jack and Judy, who's the director of marketing, and I went to a bar one day. We're having a couple glasses of wine or a beer or something. And we were talking about smaller body guitars and how we could get into a different line of acoustics, because we only had the Angelus and Tonare really. So we're like, well, what about a parlor? Because we all like parlors. I love parlor guitars, especially this black with the cream guard and the herringbone and all this. And then we started thinking, what about if we put our bracing on a parlor, because it's X hybrid, right? So it's a cross between X and classical fan bracing in the belly here. What would that sound like? What would that do to a small body instrument? And well,
the answer is good.
The answer is fantastic. So yeah, those glasses of wine turned into a pretty fantastic instrument, refined over the course of I don't know, a year.
It was a lot of R&D and a lot of going back and forth. And another example of when we come up with an idea, we travel to these factories and actually build guitars with them and use it as a teaching and a learning experience. But the cool thing about this is Paul came up with this bracing that locks in the back and the side, and it leaves the top very flexible. So it works like a speaker cabinet where the top and the back is really locked in, front's moving like crazy, and it projects sound like a speaker cabinet. So the guitar is relatively small in size, but it punches way out of its weight class, projects well, the balance is really good. There's a ton of reviews out there online and in magazines. You can check it out. But I will tell you, when the first prototype came in, we played it, and it was startling to me. Like, it was like, I don't know, like getting on a bicycle and it going like a motorcycle,
Like
because it's doing something you don't expect it to do. Even though you had high hopes for it, it way went outside of the bounds of that. So this is, along with the hollow body, I think this acoustic parlor has been kind of like one of my favorite projects that's come around in the last year or two.
Well, sales-wise, it is definitely blown up. That's for sure.
It caught us off guard. That's
Yeah, we did not know that was coming.
Yeah, it blew up.
And having a smaller body guitar, I mean, you know, being super literal about it, being at a time when a lot of people are stuck at home and, you know, you're not going out. I mean, having a smaller guitar that you can just pick up and sit on the couch and just play around and doesn't take up too much space in the home is a really cool thing. And to have one that plays like that and feels like that. I mean, like you said, you pick that thing up, you grab that neck, you're like, oh man, like that.
I've got a 21-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old daughter. Both of them love playing acoustic guitars. And I've got a ton of guitars around my house, as you can imagine, but that's the one that they gravitate to, and it's just comfy, it's well balanced, it fits them really well. And so yeah, it just opens up all kinds of opportunities. So we're definitely thinking we're onto something good and excited about what we can do with that in the future.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. What else you got cooking back there?
This is a good one.
That's a good one. This is, I'm fond of this one also. This is an A60. It's got a spruce top, mahogany neck, and then it's got Zirconi back and sides.
Oh,
Look at that. Damn.
And it's got nice shell birds. It's got maple. The fretboard's bound in maple. Headstock's bound in maple. Body's bound in maple.
That's SE.
This is an SE, so it showed up, and Paul Miles, who's the head of private stock, he's like, "What's that?" And we're like, "Oh, it's this SE we're working on." He's like, "Damn, it looks like a private stock." And we're like, "Mission accomplished."
Yeah, I'd say so.
Fantastic. Feels wonderful. Sounds wonderful. It's a lot of bang for the buck, and I think it's actually one of the top sellers in our acoustic line. So until this parlor came out.
They're stunning guitars. Like when we were looking at the giveaway and doing some of these promo videos, I was looking for one of the SEs in the acoustic room, and I never looked at it because I thought it was a core acoustic. I thought it was like one of the real deal, and they said, yeah, that's one of the SEs, and I picked up. I was like, what the hell is this? This is crazy. They're phenomenal instruments. Really, just beautiful instruments.
Testament
the whole
to
way through.
The design and the people that build them. That's for sure. Jack, you want to talk about the factories?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So tell us a little bit about like the factory and what your relationship is and what goes on there.
All right, that's a big story. I'll try to do it short, and I'm not good at that. But for starters, as Paul mentioned, we started out with WMI, World Manufacturing in Korea back in the day. In 1999, we started talking to them. 2000, we actually started doing business, I think. And what we were looking for is a company that understood what we wanted to do as guitar players and could uphold the standards of the instrument, not just the look of the instrument. And it was fantastic. Over time, what happened is the economy changed, just like it did in Japan back in the day, and made it to where it just wasn't financially feasible to make guitars like this in Korea. A Korean-based company, Cortec or Cord, has a factory in Indonesia, and we started talking to them about making guitars there. Fast forward to now, what we have is a group of people, a factory, or 3 buildings actually, to where only PRS SEs are made inside of that factory. I've been there a lot. Last year, I was there I was in Asia 10 times, I think, in 12 months. And what we do when we go there is not sit down with spreadsheets, although there are spreadsheets. But what we do is we go into the factory, we have tools, we have micrometers, we have dial calipers, and we have processes. And so we have a partner in court that looks at our processes, and we teach them how to make PRS SE guitars. Last night, I was on a Zoom call with Korea and with Indonesia, with our engineering department, with the SE staff, Doug Shive, Sean Thomas, and we're basically going through prototyping new neck profiles. So to really truncate that conversation, it's collaborative. It's more collaborative, I am told, than what anybody is doing inside of this realm. We work with them in a way that's very different than what other people work with outsourced manufacturing, because we grew up making guitars, and that's what we know. And we know what works, what doesn't, what feels good, and how to do it. So if we can share that knowledge with our manufacturing partners, what we end up with is being able to advance the PRS SE line. We do that in Indonesia with the solid body electrics. The acoustics and hollow bodies are made in Dalian, China. I've been there a bazillion times. And it's like almost like we have our factory here in Stevensville, Maryland. It's almost like there's another factory in the next county, except it's another continent away. And when you travel there, and Jim might want to tell this story. I took Jim with me last year to Indonesia, and I probably should stop talking and let him tell his experience of what happened there.
All right, so I had the pleasure. We're going to the Shanghai show, and on the way it was one of his monthly visits essentially. And we stopped off at the Indonesian guitar factory, and quite an experience for me because I've never been to that part of the world. So that part was interesting in itself. But when we got to the factory, very nice area. I'm pretty excited. So we walk in, and I'm just going to draw a parallel here. So for those of you who have ever been to this factory in Maryland, the PRS Guitars factory, the place has an energy to it. It's got a amazing energy. I feel it every day. I feel lucky about that. But there's all this passion and love and just drive and determination to make the best tools possible. And I know what that feels like because I've been here for 23 years. So I walk into this factory, and people are saying hi to Jack, like line workers. And I'm like, that's just like this place. But the thing that got me was the energy. It had very similar energy where they were very dedicated and you could feel the passion in what they were doing. And I just thought that was astounding. So much so that I kind of just started wandering off, probably pissing people off or whatever. But yeah, it was a fantastic experience. And I just, I wish everyone could do that. There's a video on YouTube.
We ended up shooting a video partly because of that, because I guess it didn't strike me the way it struck him because I was doing it. So we did this video, which is on our YouTube channel. So you can take a factory tour there. You can take I think we did the factory tour in Indonesia first, and then people were like, why don't you do one of those in Maryland? I did a factory tour for Maryland right after that. And the similarities you see, again, Paul Schein, you'd be able to, you could anticipate this tour probably, because all the stuff that we've learned here and tried to apply it to there, you see it inside of that factory tour.
Parallel structure. It's the same way you write a great song.
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to the, that goes back to like the science that I've had the fortune to go to the factory and like seeing the machines, like the CNC machines and how you're cutting this wood and shaving it down. I mean, the technological expertise that you have in that factory just shows that you can take that somewhere else and deliver that same sort of quality and consistency. Because this is not what happens all over the place. Not every guitar maker just does this and makes awesome instruments around the world. So I think it just speaks to the real science that goes into this. But to hear that the vibe is the same there too, like that's remarkable. That's really special. And
the mission, Adam, I think
not easy.
And the mission, because our mission is not, it is science, it is art, but the real mission is about making that tool. And It's like what we want to do is go somewhere else and just embed that DNA. And that's our goal. And I think we're doing okay at that. There's always room to get better, you know, and we're way not, we are not complacent, you know, and it's never going to be done. Paul keeps talking about Paul Smith. Paul Smith will never be done. He'll never be satisfied.
He'll never be done.
It ain't gonna happen.
There's always a better guitar. He's always making something, whether it's a wound on a pickup or a different way of carving the wood, or just there's always something that he'll be like, I figured it. I did it. I figured it out. That's it.
He's a walking asymptote. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's always approaching it, but he's never quite there.
He's always has these epiphanies.
If you live in that headspace and you do that every year, that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of like, we're trying to appreciate what's happening, but not be satisfied with it at the same time. And I think that's how you advance it for everybody.
I think that's really cool. We had a stream a couple weeks ago with a mouthpiece maker, Theowani, and he said the same thing, that like if he ever said he achieved like greatness, like whose job is that? Like he's always looking to make something better. There's always someone else that he's looking at and be like, oh, that's really interesting. How can I do better than that? How can I take this to another level? And Paul, I think, always looked at himself too, like, I made a really good guitar. How can I make that better now? What can I do to up myself that I just did, which is remarkable, and keeps pushing it. You know, it's really, really cool.
And infect the people around you with that same
absolutely. Oh yeah, you can feel it when you walk in that factory. It is every single person that touches any bit of that guitar has caught that bug and is about making these phenomenal instruments.
And we should say that because the folks on the shop floor make it happen, man. It is so. And really, people get nostalgic about, like, back in the day, I was making guitars back then. The guitars that we're making today completely blow that stuff out of the water. And it is a design thing. It's an advancement of thinking. You know, it's Paul developing things. But it's also just the level of craftsmanship on that shop floor is ridiculous at this point. I used to be, in the 90s, the guy that went on the shop floor to look for problems. Now I don't see what they're talking about. They've taken it to a level that is so far beyond my comprehension and it's so cool because it's like every generation is getting a little bit better and the guitar is getting better for it.
Anal retentive should have a hyphen, and the hyphen should be a particular length.
Somebody write that down. That was awesome.
So guys behind the scenes, do we got any questions that we want to throw up for Jimmy Jack while we got him?
Jimmy Jack corn and I don't care.
So what neck shape is most similar to the classic Fender C shape in the PRS line?
The neck is closest to that. Maybe the Silver Sky, I would say, but it's a deviation because it actually feels like something right out of, like, if you've ever felt a Strat from like 63 or 64, that's what it feels like, but actually just refined.
You know, I thought the Silver Sky was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen, because you look at it and you're like, oh, that looks familiar. But when you hold that thing and you appreciate what it's just like what we talked about. It's an advancement on what has been done previously. It's an appreciation for the art of these instruments that have been made before. And how can we make that better today? How can we deliver something that no one's ever had before and take it to a new level? And I think the Silver Sky is just like the perfect, culmination of that vibe, that energy. It's really a remarkable instrument.
I wish we had some kind of a ticker to say how many hours went into that. Woo!
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is you can't just wish it to be so. It is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And Paul, man, that was like 2 years of his life went into and sweating those details. That was a lot.
Well, when people ask me about the Silver Sky, I give them like a short tagline about it, which is that this is a really great, that guitar made by a guy that doesn't even really like that guitar. So you could imagine how much he was trying. No, I mean, it's just Paul's never been about those styles of guitars. He's more inspired by the that other brand, if you will. And he did such an amazing job, which goes to how much John Mayer was able to convince him and how much he was able to convey what he liked about a particular instrument. And Paul's, attention to detail, wherein he had to interpret it perfectly and make that dream of John Mayer's into a reality. And sales has borne that out. So yeah, that's been a huge out of the park blow up success. And I guess you ought to know that. I guess you've had enough of those phone calls, right?
One or two. Yeah. But if I can draw a parallel, I have a 63 jazz bass, and the thing is amazing. Like when I was able to score it, I brought it here, and I just put it in Paul's hands, and he goes, "Can you get this bass?" I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do it right now before the guy changes his mind." So long story short, I have the bass. It's like I play it all the time. It's a fantastic instrument. And the other day I'm playing it, and I'm dreaming about, like, this neck is so awesome. I wish I could get another one. I wish I could find another bass like this. And the answer is I can't. And then I started thinking about what we do. And with the Silver Sky, like, someone who has that experience, they can every time. And I thought that was an amazing thing. And it wasn't even Silver Sky. Then I was like, well, shoot, you can do that with a custom and an SE, anything we do. And I just thought, I don't know, odd parallel in my brain, but yeah.
Super
I'm going to
cool.
shut up now.
Guys, we got any more questions back there? What else we got cooking? Is the Paul's guitar from Ron is the Paul's guitar switching coming to the SE line in the future?
It's already there.
It is there.
Boom. There you go, Ron. It's already there.
You have come true.
It's that easy.
So it's there inside of the Paul's guitar, and it's there. Here's the Paul's guitar.
Same switching.
And it is there with the 35th anniversary custom 24 too, if you want a tremolo and 24 frets. Same switching.
Awesome.
Fantastic switching system.
Awesome. We got any more questions back there? We're getting close to this winner announcement. When did PRS start designing and making acoustics? From Scott.
2000. Well, that's a long story, right? Because it starts in 2001.
2000.
With the
Yeah,
original,
you're right.
With the original.
It's actually
Levin.
Jim's going to tell the story because I forgot part of it already.
I only know part of the story is it started in 2001 or something like that. Not 2000, 1991, with Dana Bourgeois and Paul, and essentially that kind of never like left the roost, I guess you would say, and then it kind of like was not forgotten about because stuff's always going on in the back of everyone's head. It was a seed that was planted, and then in 2008 or so, Paul met this fella, Steve Fisher, at one of his clinics, and Steve patiently waited to speak with Paul and wanted to show him a guitar, and Paul played the guitar and pretty much, I guess, I don't know if he fell in love with it, but he enjoyed the design aspects. Yeah, very impressed by it. And then, long story short, we hired Steve. He came to work here. We started an acoustic division in 2009. And it's just a seed that's planted. It kind of shifted into SEs.
We focus very much on the high end of things inside of private stock, and we still make private stock acoustics. We might go down and annoy those guys on a regular basis because I'm very interested in how those guitars are made. But what we found was we had a formula in this bracing pattern and the philosophy of construction by that locked in back and side and the floating top that could be a universal thing. That's where we applied it to the SE guitars. And that's been just I guess if you just Google PRS SE acoustic and look at most of the reviews out there, there's one kind of very universal theme, I think, which is it punches out of its weight class. If it's an $800 guitar, it tends to hang with $2,400 guitars. It is philosophically not playing a similar game as other guitars at that price point, which makes it super interesting to us because that's kind of how we're wired.
Much like the electrics, you'll have your own voice. It's not just a beat guitar.
Love it. I love it. From JD5150, does the Paul's Guitar SE have a standardized pickups? If you wanted to switch the pickups for aftermarket.
The answer is yes, and it looks like it doesn't because we cleverly, to try and mimic the Paul's guitar in the US, we just arched the pickup rings. But that's a standard size humbucker right there.
There it is.
But it has a really cool and unique and proprietary look, which is what we
Gives it a
like.
unique vibe for
Yep.
sure.
I love it, actually.
And that was purely like we were doing the prototyping on that, and I took the guitar to Paul, and he came up. It was like a millisecond. He just looked at it and he was like, "Man, I really love this guitar. It's great. Let's change the rings." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's like we're launching this thing in 3 months, man." And he's like, "Let's change the rings," and it got it to where he loved it, and it was the right call. But just one of the joys of working with Paul, where you get that curveball at the 11th hour, and you got to jump a little higher to make it happen. But the world wins in the long run.
That's right. That's right. Every time.
Everything.
Yeah.
What else we got, guys? Again from Ron. If the Custom 24 is between two other popular classics, where did the Mira come from?
The Mira came up the opposite. Well, tell it. S2. The Mira came from Core S2 rings.
We were trying to get into a different price point because, making carved top guitars, no matter if it's all mahogany or if it's maple top, you're still sanding the same amount and finishing the same amount. So we were looking to kind of simplify a design. And when we flattened out the regular PRS body, it didn't look quite right at the time until we started putting bevels on it in S2 later on. But basically, if you look at the Santana or some of Paul's early shapes, which are derivative of some classics, but that's where it came from.
The other thing that kind of like with the Mira for me, it goes right to S2 also, because when S2 happened, it was a new PRS guitar for a new customer at a different price point. It was sort of stylistically reinventing the fashion that somebody had in their head for themselves, but with that neck, with that reliability, the playability that comes with a PRS guitar. And the Mira and the Starla and the S2 Customs, all of that was born of that philosophy. And the cool thing that happened from that is we kind of did that, not under duress exactly, although it was sort of duress because we were in the middle of this incredible recession and we just built this giant building and spent millions of dollars. And all of a sudden we're in this giant recession and we had to do something. And we came together and pulled this S2 thing together. And at the time, I thought when we get out of this financial time, that will just sort of evaporate and be a thing of the past. And what happened was it accelerated. And now, Jim's come up with the Vela and a whole bunch of guitars that just as the economic time has actually turned to be very favorable, they have accelerated and helped our business enormously, where I didn't really anticipate that.
And I saw it as an opportunity to expand into a whole when we started coming out with standards and guitars with pick guards, it was like, wow, that's for a customer that doesn't they appreciate what a PRS is in theory and the shape and feel and all that, but they're
looking for
the aesthetic. Yeah, the aesthetic isn't for them. So, I'm very fond of the S2 series.
We both are.
Highly fond of the S2 series.
COVID high five.
Let's see. We got another question, guys. Is it true that the older SE Custom 22 or 24 models had carved tops, but the newer ones don't? Thanks, Rich, for the question.
Older custom. What was the original? Ask that question again, please.
From Rich, he asks, is it true that the older SE Custom 22 or 24 models had carved tops, but the newer ones don't?
So the older ones had beveled tops, and they still have beveled tops with the exception of the Paul's guitar and the Custom 2408. And when I say carved top, it is a violin carve, what you think of with a PRS when it goes like that. The beveled tops basically go like this and then drop off like that.
There it is, Rich. Right from the big brains. Got it answered.
It used to be a hand model.
Let's see. Let's see. I think we might have one more question to tee up. Let me see if I can find it. from David. Is PRS working on finding lighter weight mahogany or other similarly tonal woods for what I've read is an increasing segment of the market, like 5 to 5.5 pounders?
Well, we have all, like 1985, I will tell you, I had a scale. It was a bathroom scale. It was pretty low tech. I was weighing 5/4 boards and figuring out what the weight per square foot was to make guitars that weren't too heavy. So it's always been on our mind to not make bricks, as we call them.
And when we do have heavier weight mahogany or Carina or ash or what have you, we save them for semi-hollow guitars so we can route it out, and you're not hanging a 13-pound guitar around your neck.
And the difference in the weight per foot on a neck blank versus a body blank is a big deal we think about too, because that weight's worth it inside of a neck for sustain and a lot of other reasons. But we are very cognizant of weight. And we're getting older too.
Love it. I think we got one more to close out the Q&A from my man Dip. Maybe I missed it. Taylor has this V-bracing tech where the notes still sound like they are sustained on those high notes. PRS Acoustics got that too?
We have our own bracing that's not V-bracing, right? It's the classic hybrid bracing.
I think the best way to answer that is it is different. It has a personality that's very unique, and we find it pleasing. Paul finds it pleasing. The best thing to do is to go to Washington Music Center and pick one up and play it, because it's too hard to describe that honestly in words. But what we're after isn't a trick or whatever. It's a very balanced, EQ'd, even sound that is warm. It is not sharp, but it is not boomy, and it sustains forever, and it projects like mad. And I think it's just too hard to put all of that into words to describe what it does.
Usually when we nail that here, we go, that sounds very musical.
Yeah, musical.
It's very musical. Nothing's like irritating you in any way. You can sit there for probably hours and play or listen to that.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, if you've had the chance to hear Paul talk and he takes a piece of wood and he knocks on it, I mean, he could do that for just to listen to how this is going to sound. It's not like that's the artistry of it. It's not about like whether it's right or wrong. Does it sound good? Is it going to feel good? And is it going to play right? That's the right thing.
That's right. 100%. And is it what you have in your head? Part of what we want to do is whatever you got in your head, we're trying to find a tool that unlocks that. The guitar is a conduit to the sound in your head, so that you can leave a fingerprint or a thumbprint of what you got in your head forever. It sounds kind of cliche, but man, I think it's really true. It's like my first guitar was a terrible, horrible experience of painfulness. And what we're trying to do is embed an ability for people to pick up a guitar that doesn't break the bank, that is inspirational, comfortable, and whatever you got locked inside of you, if you are the future musician, that we can get you on that path and get you going. That's kind of what gets us excited.
I think that's the mic drop moment. I think that's it. Like, that's all you need to say. And I think without further ado, I think we give one of these things away. I think we give away this PRS SE acoustic. Let's do this thing. Guys behind the scenes, what do we got? Who's winning this thing out of 11,000 entries? Who's the winner? Evan D from Brooklyn. Congratulations. You're the winner. Big winner. Congratulations. We'll be emailing you later. We'll work this out. We'll get you that guitar. We have it right next to Paul right now. We'll ship it out tomorrow. We'll get this thing coming to you. Can't wait to see you playing this thing. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful instrument. When we're done with the stream, I'm going to go pick up one of these SE acoustics in the acoustic room and just riff on it for a few minutes, because that's what I picked up in the quarantine. I can actually play a couple chords now. And it's super fun.
I felt a great disturbance in the force.
Guys, Jimmy Jack and Jim, this has been so fun. This has been great. I can't wait to do this again. I know we got more cooking. We got a lot to talk about. There's always more to talk about in PRS world. We sincerely appreciate the relationship. We appreciate everything that goes into what you guys do, and what you guys do for the music community, and just making phenomenal tools of the trade. We appreciate it.
Back at you, man.
Back
We
at you.
love what you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. We'll be talking to you soon. For the rest of you, everyone for tuning in, we appreciate you all. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week with another Chuck Levin's Live. Like us on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. And if you got something you want to see on the live stream, hit us up at live@chucklevins.com. We're always looking for more ideas. We got plenty cooking. We're going to be working on some really cool PRS Day-esque stream coming up later this year, because it's not likely that we get to do an event with the hundreds of you that would show up to this sort of thing. So we got to take it up to another level. We got something cooking. It's going to be fun. But guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Stay awesome.